and welcome to the very first episode of Stratford Live TV with Jo Draper
and Edward Lowe. We have a really exciting show for you today because today is the first ever episode of Stratford Live TV. We love Stratford just as much as you do, and we want to inspire you to make the most out of this beautiful town, whether that is social activities, local businesses or investments.
It's exciting, isn't it? It's our first show.
First one?
First show. So each week we're going to be out and about in the community. We're going to be talking to local businesses from around the area. We're going to show you the best buy-to-let deals of the week, give you insight into what's happening in the local property market. We're also going to be showcasing upcoming local events, and we're going to be giving you home staging tips. So both Jo and myself live in Stratford, and we want everybody to live, love and invest in this beautiful town. Now I think it's quite important this bit because I need to sort of just get this out here. Jo has a slight oddity. Well, I think it's a bit of an oddity, she probably doesn't. She doesn't own a TV. Somewhat ironic because you're on a TV show but you don't own a TV.
This is true. No, I'm not a television fan. I'm not against television, so I encourage you to watch us, obviously. That's slightly different. I think it's just priorities. I love the arts, but there isn't time to watch television. So there's definitely time to be on it, though.
Crazy. I'm not sure if this really actually counts as TV anyway, does it? Because it's not technically TV.
I'm not really a technical person.
Yeah, this is highly technical. Well, TV, loosely used term, shall we say, but I don't actually know how you survive without a telly because that is my life with two kids. I'm just like, I don't know what I'd do without Netflix or Sky or something. It's just like sad to admit that, to be honest with you, but there we go. Such is life. Box sets are my life. Anyway, there we go. So, still very random. But well done for not having a TV, I think.
In today's episode, we will be meeting Carl from Carl Stallard Furniture. Ed will have his buy-to-let deal of the week, and we will also have our stat chat where Ed will be talking about how Brexit has affected the local property market. We will also have home styling tips to maximise your property when looking to sell, and we'll be talking about events coming up in the area.
Well, Carl, look, thanks for appearing on the show and let's come in to have a chat with you today. I know you are sort of pretty much born and bred in the area, so what is it you love most about Stratford?
Well, I've been in Stratford in business now for nearly 30 years, or this is our 30th year now, and it's the only town we've ever had a business in, so I can't compare it to otherwise I have got a shop in Evesham just now, but this is quite new.
Good plug.
But Stratford is a dynamic place. I think it's always moving. There's a lot of people come to visit Stratford from all over the UK. From tourists from abroad, we get a lot of foreign tourists come. We get a lot of Chinese come up the street to visit the restaurant across the road there. But I think it's because it's known and because Stratford is such an iconic place, because of William Shakespeare, of course, and because of the theatre, that it encourages the encouragement of people to come and stay because it brings businesses to the town because people can visit it.
Yeah, right, absolutely. And I think you were saying, was it 1988 you first
opened 1988, yeah, it seems a long time ago.
I was going to say, that is a long time ago.
Yeah, if anybody can remember the 80s, yes.
Yeah, just about, 79, so yeah. The latter end, shall we say, so certainly 88. How do you feel it's changed in that period?
I think it's not so much Stratford, but so Stratford has changed. I think the world's changed a little bit. As far as retail is concerned, definitely. I think when we first came to Stratford, we struggled to find a premises to rent. We started in a very small street down in Mere Street. There used to be a video shop, strangely enough. That shows how long ago it was. And at the time, all the businesses were let, and you would struggle to find a place to rent. And then as years go by, in the early years that was great, and then we moved to this premises. It used to be a hardware store, which is another rare thing. You wouldn't find many small hardware stores in towns now because the big sheds took them on. Yeah. But so it was brilliant. From the time that we came, it was fantastic. It was always a good move. Not necessarily a big enough shop for furniture that we thought at the time, but specialist furniture we've done really well. But as the time has changed, in retail especially, I think the problem, of course, is online, and because more and more shops have closed.
Well, that was going to be the next thing to talk about. As you rightly pointed out, the high street is clearly changing at a rapid rate of knots at the moment, and I suppose one of the key things is the online emergence. How have you sort of adapted your business then to adjust to those changes in the retail sector?
I think the difficulty is my own criticism for myself is that nobody thought, and I certainly didn't think it would go as quickly as it did. You think with most changes in life, things are progressive. A trend might change or an idea might change, but the internet came and it took over almost immediately. And if you weren't, and we're still not ready for it. Our website needs redoing, everything needs changing. And I think if you start a new business now, you can have that in mind. But for most shops, even for the very big stores, the likes of Mothercare and these places that have struggled, they can't change the process quick enough because it's so rapid. And the young generation absorbed it because it seems to me that younger people like the technology of it. So it is difficult, but the reason I think that we've managed to stay is Stratford, most of our customers are Stratford people generally. We have tourists and we sell things to people who visit, but if they're Stratford people, they're of a certain age group. And I think still most people who use shops want some sort of service. I think it's still in most of our DNA to have service, to be greeted nicely and to have the responsibility of the things turning up on time, and if something goes wrong, somewhere to come back to, someone to talk to, have some faith in a place where you can buy your goods. If you're buying a small item, camera or something like that, you don't really need worry too much about it, but furniture is a really key element of touchy-feely things, so you need to be certain that it's what you want. I can't say. It's not been easy to survive with the online situation, but for us, I think we've got a good reputation, and I think customers like the service. Yeah. They like the safety of being able to buy somewhere local. And so, of course, another big consideration, which I suppose it isn't always on people's forefront of their mind when they're buying something, and certainly if they're buying it online, but I personally, and still do, go out with the delivery, either with the colleagues of mine, and ensure that when we do install the product, we install the thing correctly. So if we're doing wardrobes, we'll build the wardrobes, and then we'll take away the packaging. And then so when you've finished with your purchase, you end up with the goods in place. And if anything's wrong, which occasionally does happen, then I'm there to see it at that point. So you don't have to worry about having to put it back into a box or put it back and send it back anywhere. It's a complete job. And I'm quite proud of that, although it's hard work.
Well, I mean, I can endorse that, can't I? Because if you remember, you came to ours and dropped off that little console.
Yeah.
And then we thought, we don't want it.
It didn't work.
And take it away. Yes. But then as soon as you took it away, it was like, it's a big hole there. We need that back. And I think that from an own personal perspective, the ability to have the service where somebody's prepared to sort of come and have put it in situ just to see what it looks like in its own sort of area, and then that gives you the clarification. So yeah, that works perfectly. We'll go with it, because otherwise you are buying a bit blind, I guess, aren't you?
It's a nice thing that we can do that. Of course, I mean, obviously big items are more trickier to put into place, but we can do home visits, and we do home visits. Some people, you presume that everybody knows what they want to have, but if the things are changing, the styles are changing. If you read a magazine, 1 minute you're into painted furniture, the next thing you open the magazine and it could be within 6 months, it could be a completely new trend. And trends change much faster than they used to. We started off our business in the early days selling pine, and everybody of a certain age can remember pine, and everybody think, pine was the flavour of the month. Now it's almost as if that's got bygone time, but it took a long time to change. Now things change much quicker. But doing house visits, visiting people at home, it's a great idea. It gives us a chance to see what the decoration's like, what kind of look that they really want to have. So that's a nice thing that we can offer to local people. Yeah.
Carl, great to see you again. Thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure to have a chat with you. Thanks a lot.
Sounds like you had a great time at Carl's.
Yeah. Really
great interview. I think it was really insightful for all the viewers.
Yeah, and what's interesting about Carl as well is I personally bought a few bits from him, and I distinctly remember the first bit I bought, because I did the typical thing where you go along, you walk past, see something you like, then go think, I'll find that cheaper on the internet, and I went away and looked, and I just couldn't find it anywhere any cheaper. And I mean, when I say cheaper, it was actually way more expensive. So it was a clock, and I think it was about £140, something like that, and Carl out for 85. And I was like, this is crazy. So I just fell into that natural assumption thinking that online is going to be cheaper.
Which we all do.
Yeah, I think we always do that. And I think the other thing that really surprised me with Carl particularly is that what I thought was in his shop is all that he had. But when you realise and you talk to him, he pretty much can get hold of anything. So if you just go along with a picture of something.
So really, the stock in the shop is just a springboard for other items, so he can facilitate the for you.
Well, as you saw in the interview, he's got the two shops. He's got the one in Stratford and then the one in Blackminster.
Yeah.
But even so, he can still get way more stock than what he's got to show. So it's well worth going to have a chat with him because he can pretty much get you anything. And I have to say, the prices genuinely are. So compared to like Wayfair and all these online people, he was way, way cheaper, which I fell into the trap of, but I'm pleased to say I didn't fall into the trap of because I actually did get it from him and I've got it at a great price. So go and check him out because he's really good.
So don't just go in, but also speak to them. So that's just the starting point, really.
Absolutely.
Well, next we're going to be thinking about dates for our diaries. So the RSC have just released tickets for this year's Christmas production. Tickets have been released. It will be The Boy in the Dress, which is going to be a musical from the novel of the same name by David Walliams. Not only will David Williams be playing a part in the book, but also the music has been confirmed that it will be by Robbie Williams and Guy Chambers. And the direction will come from Gregory Duran. Tickets will sell out fast and it hasn't yet been confirmed whether it will tour to the West End, so do not wait. You do not want to be disappointed. It will be an event for all of the family, so as much as some people do not want to think about Christmas yet, you will regret it in November if you don't.
Indeed. And what you won't know, because I've got a telly, is they're actually advertising this on television, which I don't ever recall seeing the RSC
I think
advertising
that's
anything
probably a first.
I think it must be. So I guess the only assumption you can make from that is they're thinking this is going to go the same way as Matilda did. So it'd be interesting
Which
to
lots
see.
of people did miss out on.
Yeah, we did the same actually, to be honest. We picked it up and went to London in the end because we missed out. It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's literally a mile from door to door from our house and yet we still didn't go and missed it and then had to go and see it however many miles London is away. But yeah, so I'd very much say get in quick because no doubt the tickets to that are always going to go.
Absolutely, absolutely.
No.
I'm sure the box office are incredibly busy as we speak.
Stratford-upon-Avon landlords, I am out and about on this beautiful sunny day hunting down the very best buy-to-let deals from around the area. Today brings me to Huxley Court. Here we've got a 2 double-bedroomed first floor apartment. You've got kitchen, living room, ensuite to master and the all-important allocated parking space. Now it's on the market for $149,950, which I've got to be honest, I think is a smashing price. These always rent incredibly well to professional couples. It does need a little bit of TLC, there needs some new carpets in there and a little bit of decor, but other than that, it's pretty good to go. It's got a nice long lease on it, which is great as well. This would rent out for £725 per calendar month. So even after you've taken off your ground rent and your service charge, which currently sit at around about £1,000 a year, you'll be getting a net yield of 5.14%, which is great. I love this because you're right in the centre of town. You can walk in, the Mayberg shopping centre is on your doorstep and you can get out of Stratford either way for the A46 and the M40, so it's so well placed. Experience tells us these properties don't hang around for a while, they always let out. It's on the market at the moment with Connells in Stratford. Give the guys there a call, get in, have a look at it. I really recommend it and it could be a great property to add to your portfolio.
In this segment, we're going to be talking about the local property market. Sadly, the B word is going to get mentioned. I know everyone's probably fed up to the back teeth of hearing it, but it's interesting because there's a lot of scaremongering going on of exactly how it is affecting the local house market. But if I'm being honest, as you'll see just a bit later on in this section, it actually hasn't really done anywhere near as much as people are letting you believe. So really what you need to be doing is comparing a moment in time with another moment in time. And by that, what I mean, let's look at the recession and how transaction levels changed between 2018. What we're going to do is we're going to look back to the credit crunch, which was between 2008 to 2010. We're also going to compare it to what we call a boom years between 2014 to 2017, and then we're also going to look obviously at 2018. Now, the press, as you all imagine and know, grab headlines like Mark Carney coming out and saying that property prices are going to drop 30% and there's all this hoo-ha about what's going to be happening. Simply isn't really true. I think the thing you have to remember is it's all relative. So more often than not, people when they buy go on to sell, so often you're no worse or better off. And in actual fact, if you're trading up the market, i.e. buying a slightly more expensive property, it's the best time to do it, because when the market's growing, that price is always going to get further and further away from you. Obviously, when the market's stalling a little bit, it actually gets a bit nearer. So to be totally honest with you, if you're upsizing or thinking about doing it, this is the perfect time to do it because it's a bit cheaper. And really what you've got to judge on the quality and the health of the property market is by transaction numbers, which is what we're going to have a look at next. So here we've created this lovely chart. So this is 2008 to 2010, which is the credit crunch. 2014 to 2017 is what we're going to call the boom years, and then 2018. So this is over the last 10 years, and this is the cumulative amount of transactions. So what's interesting about this is you actually look in 2018, in November and December, we actually had more transactions than we did in the boom years. So it quite clearly shows that it hasn't had anywhere near the effect that everyone thinks it might. What we've then done is split it down into quarters. So the blue strip refers to the credit crunch years, the green is the boom, and then orange is 2018. So really, if you kind of look at these two, these are probably the most important ones. This is the recession, and this is what's happened. So you can see in each quarter, we're way ahead of how you'd expect to do or what did happen in the credit crunch. And interestingly enough, if you look towards these quarter 3 and quarter 4, really there's very little difference. So 233 versus 299, so practically the same level of transactions went through. And I think at the end of the day, what we've then done is broken it down per month. So between 2008, 2010, so again, that's the credit crunch, that's 125 properties per month. Between 2014 and 2017, that's 210 transactions per month, so that's boom years. And if you look in 2018, 190 per month. Now, when you look at that, so in the boom years, we were down 9.3%, but up a staggering 51.5% from the recession. So it's nowhere near as bad as the property market has been in the past. So really, Brexit just hasn't done what everyone thought it might. The other thing as well, there are fundamental problems within the property market anyway. Now, this is a contentious one. We're still not building enough homes. I know from being local myself, I can see it all going on, but sadly the reality is we're still not building enough. And interestingly enough, one of the main drivers of this, believe it, is the divorce rate, which may sound a bit of an odd statement to make, but the reality is, if you have a family with 2 children that then sadly divorce, you've then got 2 needs for 2 3-bedroom homes. And that is often a big driver, sadly, as to why there is a bit of a need for more housing. The problem really is down to affordability, which is obviously where we fall the next one. Because at the end of the day, people's earning ratio between what property prices are is just completely disproportionate. And then when rents are high, it's very difficult to actually save. And then sort of kick us in the teeth a bit more, in 2014, new mortgage rules came in, which has made it more difficult for people to raise finance on property. The long-term sort of outlook, though, realistically, is I think that Brexit, for me, anyway, has been a bit of a sort of a passing diversion. Assuming that sort of Brexit gets sorted, we're always going to be constrained by what we've just said, which is earnings, because until earnings pick up, people just simply can't afford to borrow more. So therefore, I think the anticipated growth probably is going to be between 2.5 to 4% a year. So it's a steady incline, really. I love this slide as well. I think being in Stratford, it would only be right to throw in some sort of Shakespearean reference. So to buy now or to buy later, that is the question. I get asked this all the time by both landlords and homeowners. I think what tends to happen, people get very sort of distracted by the political landscape, and at the end of the day, not one of us can change this. This is just a fact of life now. You've got to really drill it back to your own situation. So you've got some core things there that you probably are thinking about why you need to move. So it might be you need to move for schools. It may be that you've got another child on the way. In fact, our cameraman Jack has just found out that he's expecting again. So well done, Jack. And often the answer to these questions is yes. And I think that a lot of people are holding back, and there's going to be a bit of a problem with this, because once Brexit does move forward, and at some point, although no one can really see it at the moment, that is going to happen, there's going to be this pent-up demand. And the problem with that is when it's almost like holding water back. As soon as that floodgate opens, there's a chance that all that demand is going to come through, and that is going to affect prices potentially as well. And you know what? If it isn't Brexit, it's always something. So if you look back through history, Black Monday, we had the stock market crash of 1987. Black Wednesday 1992, interest rates doubled practically in a day, up to 15%. I mean, you imagine that now, how low interest rates are going, that's 15%. Crazy. And then we've had the credit crunch 2008. So do you know what? There's always something. And the problem is, I think in life now, when you can go onto something like Next and you can order something at 10 o'clock at night and get it delivered the next morning, we've become a nation of very impatient people, and we don't like to hold back. And that's exactly what's happening. But we need to kind of break free of that and just think about our own lives, because the reality is, this is probably the most telling stat, which I've got to be a bit surprised at myself. This is from a report that Zoopla produced about a year and a half ago. On average, Britons move home once every 23 years. So I've got to be honest with you. Why are you waiting? Because the house market changes every year. So 23 years, what happens now in the housing market? If you are going to stay in your house that long, I can promise you, you're not going to really be worrying about Brexit or anything else. It's going to be so far in the future that it really shouldn't be something that concerns you. And it's always been such a solid investment. And the other thing as well, particularly Stratford landlords, where are you going to put your money? They're not building enough homes, so there's going to be a demand there, so there's always going to be people wanting to move into those. You've got a supply demand which is always going to be outstripped because of that fact. And at the end of the day, you chuck it in the bank, and what are you going to get? You're probably going to get 1 or 2% return in the bank at best, and is it really worth it? I think property has always been shown as just a fantastic rigid investment, and you can't really go too far long. It's like any investment really, you've got to see it slightly more long term than short term. And if you do that, then you're going to be fine. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. In the short term, because of Brexit, you may find you can pick up some bargains. So particularly new builds at the moment, they're dying to sell stuff. So you can literally get stamp duties off, you can get incentives, crazy incentives that I guarantee once Brexit sorts out, you won't be getting. So there's a real interest there to go perhaps look at that segment of the market, because you can probably pick up a really, really good buy. And at the end of the day, it's what we've already said, the main reasons for the increase in market, which we've gone through previously. And so that kind of wraps up this section. I think what I would just say is, look, get on with your life. The reality is Brexit, although it's a problem, a bit of a pain to be honest with you, and it's just a headline grabbing thing. When you look at the property market and you review those stats, it just hasn't affected it anywhere near as you'd expect. And so the signs are good. So property market locally is looking strong.
In this segment, we will be sharing our home styling tips, and we will be demonstrating how to combat an unfurnished property and really making the most of your space.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important, this actually. So if you've had a property that's been tenanted where they've moved out, the property then has no furniture in, it can be quite unhomely. Buyers do like to see that little bit of furniture in there, so it just gives it a bit of a softer touch. But of course, you don't often want to spend a huge amount of money on it. So we've done this on a shoestring, as you'll see. So let's dive in and show you how to do it. So there we have it. That is a bed built. This should cost you probably no more than about £50. So as you can see, it's really basic ingredients, if you want to call it that. 4 cardboard boxes, inflatable mattress is the key. Definitely get a pump, because it's not nice trying to pump it manually. And then the rest you can just use to dress it. Now the reason why this is so important, this is a good sized room that we're in today. So it's obvious that it fits a double room, fits a double bed. But the reason why it's so essential is what it then does, it allows the buyer to come and have a look and see what else they can fit into the room once the bed's in place. So it acts as if you like a measuring tool, because the big thing about this is you need to have something proportionally in the room that allows the other space to talk. So you can see where you can have a wardrobe, a chest of drawers, some bedsides, and if nothing else, it does just soften it. And to be honest, it's a well worth investment for sort of 50 odd pounds. You don't want to go and be buying a brand new bed and mattress, of course, but this is a really good sort of cheap way of doing it, and it definitely makes a big difference, particularly on the marketing of the property, but not also when people come to look at it. Just one thing, don't try and sit on it.
That was our first home styling tip, one of many, where we will be sharing all of the tricks of the trade for you to maximise the potential with your property.
A big thanks goes out to Carl from Carl Stallard for allowing us to come and interview him in his business.
And in our next episode, we will be going out to another local business, so try and guess who it may be. And also, in the meantime, do not forget to get your tickets for the RSC.
Absolutely right. In the property section, I'm going to see if there are any bargains out there as a result of Brexit. So remember this: live, love and invest in Stratford. Can't believe that's the end of our first episode.
Thanks for watching.
We're done. Thank you. We're also going to give you insights into what's happened to the property. Oh, you lie. Oh. Absolutely. So we're going to be each week. Oh, you give you insights into the. Oh,
I think it's because you've got that.
Out and about in the community. We're going to talk to local companies.
Sounds like you had a great time with Carl. Really insightful, really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you had a relationship. You've worked with him before. No,
Yeah,
you've had a relationship with him.
How did Brexit affect the local property market in 2018? Yesterday I was like, most often when you come to buy and then you sell, you're buying on. So you're selling in and talking. The problem with this often is that the press create this havoc with great big bold headlines of double-digit house price drops, like Mark Carney when he suggested 30%. Then 2014 to 2018, the boom years. Not 2018 to 2017.
We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We will. What are we doing? Oh.